Since the enormous growth in air travel following World War II, the TWU has been fighting for the rights of flight attendants. Organizing at Pan Am, Eastern, and Transworld Airlines were among the TWU's first cabin crew victories. At the time, flight attendants were almost exclusively women, and their concerns were more than simply about wages and benefits. If a flight attendant married, she was terminated. When she reached age 32, she was terminated. Her weight and appearance were hyper-scrutinized. The TWU fought against these and other unfair company practices. And this year marks the 50th anniversary of flight attendants at Southwest Airlines joining the TWU. 5 decades of solidarity, strength, and progress in the skies. But it didn't come without a fight. In 1989, labor was re-energized by the machinist strike against Eastern Airlines and corporate raider Frank Lorenzo. The flight attendants of TWU Local 553 went out in support of the IAM and remained on the picket line for more than a year. In the end, they sacrificed their jobs at Eastern for the foundational principles of the labor movement, that an injury to one is an injury to all.
We were ready for the fight because we had International fighting with us all the way through. We were fighting for something bigger, for our dignity, our ability to stand together as a union movement. It was worth it for us, and it was worth it for TWU. Because if we don't fight, we can't win.
Today, TWU represents nearly 30,000 cabin crew members, fighting for fair pay, benefits, and working conditions, making us the strongest union for flight attendants in America, if not the world.
June 18th of 1971 was the first commercial flight. I was in the first class of Southwest flight attendants, except we were called hostesses, and there was 39 of us.
I was number 3 at Southwest Airlines. I happened to be one of the older girls. I was like 21, 22. The uniform was definitely the draw for the airline.
We had to wear shorts, but they were called hot pants. And that was the style. And we had to wear platform shoes.
It was kind of like the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. You know, we were promoted in that same sense.
Our main objective was to always get the drinks out, no matter what. You know, we didn't sit down for turbulence or anything. The worst case scenario, we would put the tray on the ground and scoot it. So it was a different time and a different world.
And I felt like Southwest Airlines would grow and do as long as we worked hard. But you didn't know from one day to the next if you were doing right.
We had to be in those hot pants, but we weren't allowed to wear a coat. You could get in trouble, you could get fired if you wore a coat. And it's like 20 degrees outside, the back door and the front door are open, and you're standing there freezing to death.
That's when I became militant. I just like switched, you know.
So I went into Lamar Muse, who was the president, and I said, would you be able to just write up a set of rules for us so we know when we come to work what's right and what's wrong? Lamar looked at me and he said, excuse me, but you just go get yourself a goddamn union. So I did. Family friend that I grew up with, he was a judge, Joe Spurlock. And before he became a judge, he was a labor lawyer. He said, you go to TWU and they're out at American Airlines. It went from there.
So you had some girls that were scared to do anything because they didn't want to put the company out of business. And I was one of those that had faith that it wasn't going to go out of business.
I really wasn't sure if we were going to win the vote or not, but we did win, just by a little.
We were women that had not fought for very much. Almost makes me cry when I think about it, because I really am proud of it, because the men were Goliath and we were little David.
So I came to Southwest Airlines in January of 1978. Sandra and Paula and Deborah had gotten the ball rolling. And then when I started, there was a lady named Susie Goodman and a few other ladies that were literally taking that baton and taking it to the next level.
You've got to remember that we're from Texas. All the girls that were hired, that were from Texas. We didn't really know much about unions. What we did know was that the company thought they were troublemakers and rebel rousers.
That first contract really was so thin, it looked like a pamphlet. But we got almost everything we asked for. And we probably would not have done that had we not had TWU and their attorneys to help us.
You would think that money would be the most thing to drive the group together for the union, but initially it was our uniform, because we wanted so badly out of the hot pants. The union was our power, to negotiate with the company. They finally allowed us to have slacks for 3 months of the year, December through February. And then I think shortly after that, maybe 82 or 3, we hired the males. And once, of course, we hired males, we didn't have to wear hot pants anymore, because they didn't want to see the boys in the hot pants.
And people were so excited. I don't think that there's ever been a group of union people so unified in my life, with practically no dissension.
We wanted to be perceived and looked at as professionals. We wanted Southwest to succeed, but they weren't going to succeed without us.
Then we decided, let's move on to the contract. We didn't want to milk the company. We didn't want to put them out of business. But Southwest had turned a profit. They made $28 million, which is now peanuts compared to the billions that they make. But we thought, they made $28 million. They need to share some of that with us.
TWU International always had our back. Our international rep was a man named Paul Gaynor. He gave us a solid foundation.
So we negotiated. There was 5 women, Paul Gaynor and the VP of in-flight. And we came up with an agreement on time, and people were amazed at what we were going to get. It was just like Christmas in June. The contract was passed by 99%.
By 1981, with Southwest Airlines grown exponentially, the International Union chartered Local 556 so the company's flight attendants could determine their own destiny. Local 556 worked hard to improve its members' lives through every new contract and the work of its contract administrators. Local presidents Susie Goodman, Mary Longobardi, Kay Hogan, and Paul Sweeten all made significant contributions. Then came the terror attacks on 9/11.
We didn't know if there was going to be a tomorrow. We didn't know if there was going to be an airline industry after this was over, but we did know that our members needed a better contract. So that was our next big challenge. And one thing that we had never really seen was an organized strategic contract campaign. We started negotiating in 2002, and it took us 2.5 years to negotiate our contract. But with those 2.5 years, we picketed for the first time, and we kept doing it. And our campaign kept building up, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and we got more support from the flight attendants. We finally passed a contract in 2004, and it was the industry-leading contract at the time, and we have carried on and had industry-leading contracts ever since then.
It's quite amazing, really and truly, to have had the privilege and honor to have this front row seat, to see how far we've come. The better that we got with our contracts, the better we could make Southwest Airlines as flight attendants.
Today, TWU 556 continues to raise the bar for the entire industry. In 2024, after a 6-year effort that was made more difficult by the pandemic, 556 negotiators reached yet another contract milestone.
So this is our pink contract. Our contracts actually are always bound in a color. We decided to make it pink because it is the first contract in the United States that gives paid maternity leave and parental leave to flight attendants.
One of the main things about our current contract, of course, is our pay structure. We're the highest paid in the industry. Not only that, I think that not only is pay important, but again, quality of life issues are extremely important for our flight attendants.
Score another win for TWU families.
That we started from little bitty to now it's just grown amazing. It feels wonderful.
I loved Southwest. I loved it to pieces. And I knew I wasn't destroying it.
You had to dig your heels in, and you had to stand strong.
Our union is everything, it truly is.
I'm just kind of amazed at everything that's happened and the way the union really grew from those seeds that we planted. It's phenomenal. It really is.
Everything that we have pretty much today is because of TWU.
When I started with Allegiant in 2010, it was a really hard airline to work for. We didn't have a union, but I quickly heard that there was talk about getting a union. And the first person to approach me about doing union work was actually Tom McDaniel. And now looking back, I can't believe where we're at today, and it makes me really proud.
That was the most anti-union company that I've ever walked into. It took us 7 years to negotiate their first contract, including an attempt to decertify the union. And when we went in this time to negotiate the contract, they came to the table ready to bargain with us, and we were able to negotiate a great contract for them.
JetBlue is the same thing. All the flight attendants at JetBlue all wanted to be part of TWU. They wanted to go where there was proven success. So we have 4 groups: JetBlue, Southwest, FSI, and Allegiant. And we represent more people in the airlines than any other union at this point.
The last 4 years for the airline division has been exponential growth and record-breaking contracts in every airline where we have members. Southwest Airlines was a very small airline when they organized, and now they're the largest domestic carrier in the United States. So you don't know when you organize that group what's coming in the future.
TWU Local 556 Southwest contracts, their first one was 9 to 12 pages long. And now here we are 50 years later with the pink contract. And so when we talk about industry leading, we talk about groundbreaking.
It really made me think about how fortunate we are today as women to not have to struggle so hard to be heard. And it really makes me proud to be a part of this union. They have truly been stepping up and being a strong support system.